Democratic lawmaker who was just briefed. Congressman Anthony Brown of Maryland is vice chairman of the Armed Services Committee. He is a retired colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve who earned a Bronze Star after serving in Iraq. So, Congressman Brown, thank you, sir, for joining me.
Great to be on with you, Brooke.
We heard your fellow Democrat, Jerry Connolly, step in front of cameras after he was briefed, and the words he used was sophomoric and utterly unconvincing. What was your read of the briefing?
Yeah, I wasn't convinced whatsoever. I think we heard a lot of conclusory statements like there was an imminent threat, the intelligence was credible, but as members of Congress, we wanted the factual basis. Tell us about that threat, time, place, manner. We received none of that. Tell us about the intelligence, and we received very little about that. We got conclusory statements that there was an imminent threat based on credible evidence. That's what the administration's position has been publicly as well as in this classified briefing, but no facts to support it, and that's what leaves a lot of members wanting, a lot of members of Congress wanting.
I hear you being unconvinced, and I know you can't comment on content, but, you know, bottom line, Congressman, was the strike on Soleimani warranted?
Look, I think that, General Soleimani has his hands, had his hands in a lot of actions, activities, operations that resulted in the death of Americans and many others. It's my sense, after what I've heard, that the strike, the assassination of General Soleimani was probably based more on past conduct, which is bad, and less on imminent threat. Because, again, we didn't hear a whole lot about the threat that General Soleimani was planning, plotting, coordinating. Not to say that there would not have been, but again, the question is, what was the basis for assassinating this Iranian general at this time?
Sounds like you don't have your answer. Okay, got it. Fortunately, no blood was shed on the American or the Iraqi side. Do you believe the Iranians when they say that this response was proportionate? Do you believe the sequence of attacks is over?
Look, I think that this attack was an intent on the Iranians to demonstrate their capability and try to establish a level of deterrence. I think we can all take a collective sigh of relief that there were no casualties, Americans, Iraqis, or others. This is a really good time, I think, to de-escalate and to really find a way to resolve this problem. And the administration, President Trump certainly today, did not offer any strategy or approach to doing that.
Sounds like, according to some intelligence sources our folks have been talking to, there is concern when it comes to potential cyber attacks, so they've got their eyes on that. Given, Congressman, just that you have served in Iraq and that the fact that Iraq is now caught in the middle of this fight, geographically speaking, would you be in support of the U.S. withdrawing troops from Iraq?
Look, I think what we need to do is we need to make sure that Iraq is a stable nation, stable governance, stable civil society, and that they can provide for their own security. If we don't do that, then we will see what we saw in 2011 to 2014, the reemergence of ISIS. So yes, I would, as well as many others, would like to see U.S. troops withdrawn, but we need to make sure that we do it at a time when we're not creating greater risk for the United States and our allies.
So it sounds like you're saying no. The U.S. should not withdraw based upon the vacuum that would certainly be filled by ISIS terrorists a la 2011. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The withdrawal needs to be deliberate and with our goals completed.
With 50,000 or so troops, American troops stationed throughout the Middle East, and of course their families at home on pins and needles, wondering if this is over, what would you say to them?
Look, I tell you, there's a special place in my heart for U.S. men and women who serve in the military and their families. Their families are on pins and needles. Last night, we were all watching on the television with, 24 or so missiles impacting housing where service members are located. That's just not where we need to be. And I think the president needs to step up. He's got to articulate a strategy so that America, including our military families, know that there is a plan. There are goals that are in place. We're going to engage our allies, and as soon as we can, we are going to bring our men and women home, whether that's Iraq, whether that's Afghanistan, or anywhere else around the world, because we're tired of these forever wars. And I think we owe that to the men and women who serve. We owe it to their families. We owe it to America.
Congressman Anthony Brown, thank you, sir.